Coming up on American Black Journal, we'll examine the story and legacy of Dr. Ossian Sweet, 100 years after he defied segregation and sparked one of America's most famous civil rights trials. Plus, an important part of civil rights history goes on display next year at Greenfield Village. We'll get the details on the Jackson home and its role in the voting rights movement. Don't go away. American Black Journal starts right now.
Across our Masco family of companies, our goal is to deliver better living possibilities and make positive changes in the neighborhoods where we live, work, and do business. Masco, a Michigan company since 1929. Support also provided by the Cynthia and Elsa Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit PBS.
The DTE Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit PBS. Through our giving, we are committed to meeting the needs of the communities we serve statewide to help ensure a bright and thriving future for all. Learn more at dtefoundation.com.
Also brought to you by Nissan Foundation and viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm your host, Stephen Henderson. It was 100 years ago when Dr. Ossian Sweet, an African-American physician, moved his family into a white neighborhood on Detroit's east side. Shortly after, an angry white mob gathered and threw rocks and bottles at Dr. Sweet's house. One of the attackers was shot and killed, and the subsequent murder trial for Dr. Sweet made civil rights history. The home is now a National Historical Landmark, and a memorial park just opened up next door. Joining me now is the CEO and founder of the Dr. Ossian H. Sweet Foundation, Daniel Baxter. Welcome to American Black Journal.
Oh, thank you, Stephen. It is definitely a delight and plum pleasing pleasure to be here today.
Yes, I'm used to talking to you about elections because you have been part of the elections process here in the city for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, 40 years.
Is it 40 years?
40 years,
yes. But this is a really great thing to talk about.
Yes,
It's a different thing. I didn't know, in fact, that you were as involved with this as you are.
Yes,
That's really great.
I grew up in the Sweet house.
My
parents bought it in 1958 from Dr. Sweet.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the importance of this landmark and this story in Detroit now. It was 100 years ago. It was a different city. We were in a different place, but there are echoes, I think, of all of the narratives here that we live with every day in Detroit.
Yeah, so I think that the significance of this story, particularly today, is that we have an opportunity not just to hear about it, but experience it. You have the Sweet House, you have the Memorial Park next door, which is really an outside classroom that tells the story about Dr. Sweet and what he and his family encountered. And it's so important that we share that story today because the direction that our country is going in seems like it's taking us back to that time. And the only time that you have the opportunity to really repeat your history is when you don't know about it.
When you forget about it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important to share that story today so that people become sensitized to some of the issues that impacted not just Detroit, but America, and how we were able to overcome them through litigation, through court cases and the like.
Yeah. The story of what happened when Dr. Sweet bought the house and moved into the neighborhood is so layered with different issues that we have in America. I mean, first you have this this neighborhood that is unwelcoming and angry, that an African American is living there. You have violence that breaks out as a result of that, and then you have this trial of the doctor himself as a result. Let's just go through for people who don't know, what happened, and I guess what lessons we can draw from it.
Yeah, so Dr. Sweet, he graduates from Wilberforce University, then Howard University. While he's at Wilberforce, he hangs out in Detroit and he recognizes the growing African American community and the fact that they don't have access to quality health care. So he figures that he should start his practice in Detroit to provide that and at the same time make a nice sum of money. So he moves to Detroit. He falls in love with a young lady by the name of Gladys Sweet. They get married. He goes over to Europe to study the impact of radiation on the human anatomy under Nobel Peace Prize winning Madame Curie. He comes back to Detroit and he's living with his in-laws. The house is crowded because it's not just Dr. Sweet, it's his two brothers, Henry and Otis, that are living there. He's a physician, a man of prominence. So he comes across this home that's on sale on the corner of Garland and Charlevoix. The people who own the house are an interracial couple, the Smiths. The wife is white, the husband is black, but he's passed and nobody ever questions it. They sell him the house for $18,500, 3 times the amount of the value because of the color of their skin. Dr. Sweet has no problem with that. He makes a $3,500 deposit on the house and they decide to move in. The problem is the following month, 3 African Americans run into mob violence. Dr. A.L. Turner moves into a house on Spokane Street. The mob comes and takes his home from him. Then Volington Bristol builds a home on American Street. The mob comes and destroys that. And then John Fletcher, a waiter, buys a house on Stopel Street and the same thing happens to him. Now Dr. Sweet's afraid. So they come up with a plan to move into the house on Garland on September 8th. Why September 8th? It's the day after Labor Day, the day where men will be going back to work and where the mothers will be taking their children to school. They're thinking that people will not be interested in a black guy moving into the house on the corner. So they move in on September 8th. Crowds would gather, but not much happens that day. On September 9th at 8 o'clock, all hell breaks out. The mob surround their home. They rush the house, shots ring out, and a man is killed. The Detroit Police Department comes in, they arrest everybody, charge them with first-degree murder. It's not just Dr. Sweet and his wife, but there are 11 people in this group. So the NAACP intercedes, hires Clarence Darrow. Darrow comes to Detroit, stands before Frank Murphy, and affirms a man's home is his castle, whether he's white or black. And this trial begins at the end of October, runs all the way through Thanksgiving. The turning point of the case is when they asked Dr. Sweet to testify, and the co-counsel, Arthur Garfield Hayes, asked him the poignant question, what did you think when you saw the crowd? And Dr. Sweet says, when I opened the door and I saw the mob, I realized that I was facing the same mob that had hounded my people throughout its entire history. In my mind, I was pretty confident of what I was up against. I had my back against the wall, filled with a peculiar fear, the fear of one who knows the history of my race. I know what mobs had done to my people before. And with that testimony, he would tell the story of how African Americans have had to struggle with mob violence ever since we've been in this country, right? And that was the first time that all-white male jury had an opportunity to take off their rose-colored glasses and see the world in black and white, the same way black people saw it, and understand the psychology of the defendants when that mob came. And that was a turning point. That after that case, after that trial, Murphy would turn the case over to the jury. They would come back with no decision. Murphy would declare it a mistrial, throw the case out, and then in April, Dr. Sweet's younger brother, Henry, would be retried because he's the one who actually testifies that he shot into the mob. But after 2 hours, the jury would come back with a not guilty verdict. And that's the story of the case, and that's why it's so important to talk about that.
It's this incredible moment of leveling that playing field, right? This idea that African Americans have the same right to defend themselves and their homes as white Americans
Yes,
too.
yes, and the key to that was the 14th Amendment
Yes.
and the Equal Protection Clause.
That's right.
And that was the biggest objective of the defense, was to humanize the Sweets
Yes.
and make sure that the jury understood that they were United States citizens and all
Just like
rights and
everybody
privileges
else.
of
Yeah.
citizenships attend them wherever they go.
Yeah. So you grow up in this house some years later.
Yeah.
Talk about what that does for you and how that history, I guess, visits on you and your childhood.
Yeah, so as a kid, you don't think much of it.
Yeah.
You know, people knock on your door, tour buses stop by, and it's just
It's just what
natural
happens,
thing
right?
that happens on a regular basis,
Yeah.
right? But as you grow older and as life starts lifing, you really understand the importance of that case. You know, in 2020, during the presidential election down at Huntington, at TCF then, you know, the mob came,
Right.
just like it did
Yes.
with Dr. Sweet.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that I had ever seen something like that.
Yeah.
But I was reminded of it through that story. And the beauty of that situation was that in 1925, part of the mob was the Detroit Police Department.
Right.
You know, those police officers allowed for that to happen. But in 2020, DPD stood up against that situation that occurred
Yeah.
in Huntington Place, then TCF. So that was a learning lesson for me. That was an opportunity to really appreciate the fact that because of that case, I stand on those shoulders, and the world had changed to a point where at least the Detroit Police Department and the courts,
And the courts.
after
Right.
that incident occurred, stood up for
Yeah.
justice.
Yeah. That happens 95 years after what happened to Dr. Sweet. Now we're 100.
Yes.
What should we be thinking about? What should we be doing as Detroiters, as African Americans, to make sure that those lessons stay in place?
Well, I think that you'd have to go back a little bit further.
Yeah.
And bring up the name of Frederick Douglass. One of the last things that he said before his death, he said that we have to agitate, agitate, and agitate. You know, I think Reverend Anthony says it a lot, freedom ain't free. You know, it's something that we have to actively engage on a day-to-day basis in every area and aspect of our life, whether it's voting at the polls on election day, whether it's paying our taxes, whether it's moving into a new community.
Yes.
We have to be cognizant of the fact that these opportunities that we enjoy on a day-to-day basis came by blood, sweat, and tears.
Yes, they did.
And if we forget that, if we take it for granted, those same opportunities that we enjoy today can be taken away from us.
Yeah. You know, one of the things I love about this story is what happens to the house now, right? And this park, right? That's next to it. I think parks are such an important way to cast spaces into the future, because who enjoys parks the most? It's our kids,
It's our
right?
children, yes,
You
yes.
see kids playing in this spot where this thing happened 100 years later. That's incredible.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I enjoy the most is when I get a phone call from a high school asking to come to tour the home.
Yeah.
Whether it's Cass Tech, Southeastern, or any of the local schools, and when the students come and they actually engage. The last group that I had came from the University of Liggett, you know, a very diverse school, and I just applaud that administration for bringing those children there so that they can understand the legacy of Dr. Sweet, understand the world in the context of history, so that as they grow older, they'll be more sensitive to each person, whether they're black, white, or whatever they are. So that's what's so important about that park, because even if you don't get a chance to go inside of the house, you can stop at each station and learn
Yeah.
about that history and grow from it.
Yeah. All right, Daniel, it's always great to talk to you. It's wonderful to have this conversation with you after so many about elections.
Yes,
Thanks
absolutely.
for being here on American Black Journal.
Man, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
All right, keep up the great work.
This year marks the 60th anniversary of several other milestones in the civil rights movement. The Selma to Montgomery marches, President Lyndon Johnson's "We Shall Overcome" speech, and the passage of the Voting Rights Act. They all took place in 1965. The Selma, Alabama home that served as a sanctuary and strategic hub for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and other civil rights leaders is going to be on exhibit next year at the Henry Ford's Greenfield Village. I got the details on this important landmark from the president and CEO of the Henry Ford, Patricia Mouradian, and the curator of Black History, Amber Mitchell. Let's start with what this house is. I don't think a lot of folks who even know much about Martin Luther King Jr. or the civil rights movement know about this house. Amber, I'll start with you. Why is this an important symbol?
Absolutely. What a great question. So the Jackson home, the Dr. Sullivan and Richie Jean Sherritt Jackson home, was the home of a family, most importantly, a family who opened up their doors to their close personal friend, Dr. Martin Luther King, in 1965, as well as his lieutenants as part of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference to help coordinate what became the Selma to Montgomery marches of 1965 and help plan out the Voting Rights Act. Essentially, what this family did is take it on the chin, essentially, for a lot of Americans during this time period, welcoming in this person who was a great friend to them, but for many others was public enemy number one. This is him also coming on the backs of many other organizers that are already there in Selma. But I think what makes this story really interesting and really rich is that it's a story of an ordinary, everyday family who did something extraordinary, but also it allows us to talk about this really interesting intersection of justice, family, and community, all under the lens of American citizenship.
Yeah, and now it's ours. It's in our community permanently, right?
It is. We got a call from Joanna Jackson. Joanna is the daughter of Dr. Sullivan Jackson and Richie Jean Jackson, and she's the only child, and she wanted to preserve this house in perpetuity. Her parents had since passed. She doesn't live in Selma, and she grew up in this home. She understands the significance, and her family, an incredible story, not just what they did, as Amber said, but that they preserved the things that were there from that time period. They understood the significance of it. And Joanna made a promise to her parents that she would do whatever she could to preserve the stories of the home. Yeah. And she did for many years on her own. She would travel back and forth, meeting visitors and giving them tours. And pretty much out of the blue, we got a call from Joanna in February of 22. And she very passionately explained the significance of this home and what her ideas were to preserve it. And she basically said, Patricia, this home belongs in Greenfield Village. And, we took it from there. Yeah. And we really did a lot of homework and a lot of research. So it didn't actually leave Selma until the end of 23. And now it's being restored in Greenfield Village.
Yeah. You have other important markers from this time at the museum. I'm not sure everyone knows about that, but of course I've been to the museum and sat on the bus where Rosa Parks also sat in Montgomery.
And we're an American history museum.
Yeah.
We tell the stories of American innovation, and we consider social transformation and American innovation. And so we tell the story of freedom and our rights as citizens for freedom in this country, democracy, in an exhibit called With Liberty and Justice for All, and that's where the Rosa Parks bus is. That's where we tell some of the things, stories about civil rights. There are tremendous connections to what happened in 1955 with the bus to what happened in 1965 with this home.
Yeah. And so I imagine that's what you're hard at work doing, is trying to figure out where this new piece fits in with all these others.
Absolutely. I mean, in addition to obviously our huge collection in the Henry Ford Museum, we also have several other sites in Greenfield Village that I think a lot of people kind of don't really get, that we have several other things related to African American history. And so between Susquehanna Plantation way at the far end of Maple Lane in Greenfield Village to what's now the home of the Jackson home, we're able to tell nearly 200 years of African American history on one lane in one institution, which in a variety of different stories, which is very exciting. I think it's really awesome with the Jackson home in particular that it allows us to tell a much more recent story than I think any other place in Greenfield Village has. Our period of significance is 1965, so this house is going to have a TV in it. This house is going to have electricity. This house is going to be decorated for Christmas, how a lot of people still have that living memory of. So it's really exciting in multiple ways, on top of being able to talk about this important event as it relates to American history, and again, an African American family that is a professional family that comes from a professional class of people, and it looks a little bit different than I think for a lot of our visitors in understanding the diversity that is African American experiences.
Yeah. You're talking about the things that have been preserved, that she's the daughter has spent a lot of time making sure they're preserved. What are some of those things?
Absolutely. So, it is a wonderful treasure trove, to be honest. Probably the most important piece, or one of the most important pieces, is the chair that Dr. Martin Luther King sat in on the night of March 15th, 1965, as Lyndon Baines Johnson delivered his "We Shall Overcome" speech. And we have photos of Dr. King in that living room, as well as all the other people who were in that living room, and all of the things in it. And so using a combination of the things that the family has held on to, family records, family photos, as well as press photos, because this is a very well documented event, it's a very well documented house, we're able to see like the vast majority of these things are all original. They're all here, and they're all going to be going back into the house when it opens in summer 2026. So it is, we're doing some really awesome history detective work when it comes to bringing the house back to life, because, you know, it was well loved and well lived in until 2013 or so, before it became a museum on its own. So it is real important work, but it's also just really cool to be able to bring a more modern story to Greenfield Village.
And the fact that the family knew the significance and saved all these things, they saved these things. We've even found, for instance, if they recovered or reupholstered a chair, they saved the original fabric underneath. So we're finding the fabrics that were used, we're finding wallpaper on the walls. It's an incredible history that's coming to life, and our curators and our conservators, like Amber just said, they're like detectives, and they're matching up the treasure trove of photographs with the things that we're finding in the collection, because when we moved the house, everything came with it.
Right.
Exactly. And I will say, we also, you know, have the awesome opportunity of having Miss Richie Jean's voice. She wrote a book about her family's experiences in the home, called The House by the Side of the Road. And if you want to know what our interpretation is, just pick up that book, because she walks us through every room. She walks us through that whole time period. And we don't often get to have a narrative of not only the person who lived in the house and experienced this, but also their daughter who also was there.
She was there. She was a little girl. So the very first meeting we had with her, and we were on a Zoom call, because it was still kind of that COVID time period, right? So we did a Zoom call, and she was referring to her Uncle Martin, and it took me a second. I thought, wait a minute.
She's talking about Martin Luther King.
That's my Uncle Martin. So there are some wonderful pictures, and she has a lot of very, very fond memories of Dr. King and a lot of the people that were in her home during that time period. But it was also a scary time for them.
So you know, you describe this moment where she just kind of reaches out to the Henry Ford and says, "This is the place that I think this should be." I mean, that's such a testament to the museum's power across the country, not just here in Southeast Michigan.
Well, my first question was, how did you find out about us? How did you know about us? And she actually had some friends that were working with her that were in the museum research area and curatorial area, and they were doing a little digging. But there was an interesting story. She was giving a tour to an attorney who works in the civil rights world in Washington, D.C. And he had brought some of his students down. He teaches too. And they toured the house in Selma, and he pulled her aside and he said, "This house belongs in Greenfield Village." So he whispered this to her a few years before she called us.
Wow.
And it got her thinking. And then her curator colleagues also did some research. She really did her homework. Yeah. She knew what we could do, and she knew that this story needed to be told and it needed to be preserved.
That'll do it for us this week. You can find out more about our guests at AmericanBlackJournal.org, and you can connect with us anytime on social media. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
Across our Masco family of companies, our goal is to deliver better living possibilities and make positive changes in the neighborhoods where we live, work, and do business. Masco, a Michigan company since 1929. Support also provided by the Cynthia and Elsa Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit PBS.
The DTE Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit PBS. Through our giving, we are committed to meeting the needs of the communities we serve statewide to help ensure a bright and thriving future for all. Learn more at dtefoundation.com.
Also brought to you by Nissan Foundation and viewers like you. Thank you.